Come on in, come on in. This is an amazing honor, an incredible honor actually. And I will speak really, really briefly because this is a people's assembly and it's not a lecture. So what I wanted to say really, that I composed on the way down here on the bus from Bristol where I live, is that it's clear that XR is working. And it's working, I feel, because not so much because of the future orientation of its founders, but because of their historical understanding. The people behind XR understand their history. They understand the history of civil action. They understand the history of civil disobedience and what works. And I feel like the people who started XR have created this ship, this boat, and they've invited all of us on the boat. And it's now for us to embark on this voyage. And it's a voyage of, I'm going to argue, it's a voyage of transformation, that we have to transform. And what I'm going to say is that as much as we need to have our demands and know what we want, we also need to know, like the founders of XR, we need to know where we're from, we need to know our history, we need to know where we've been, we need to know where we are, and we need to know, therefore, to allow us to understand where we're going. We need to know the boat we're on and how to steer it together. And I want to talk about the nature of this voyage as a voyage of transformation. And I'll talk about what I think it is, what the nature of the voyage is. Of course, I can't say the exact destination and the nature of the voyage, because that's for us to collectively decide and determine. But I want to say two things about what I think the voyage is not. So firstly, I don't think the voyage is a technical challenge. I think that we know, and we've known for a long time, how to generate energy renewably, sustainably. We know how to farm the land and replenish the soil. We know how to live without waste. It's not a technical problem that awaits us. There are some technical elements, but generally that's not the problem. So it's not a technical challenge. The second thing, it's not a biological problem. So it's not a problem of overpopulation. So we've got to stop applying the laws of biology to society. This is not a problem of overpopulation, and if it is, it's because it's a problem of capitalism. So we need to understand that. So there are two things that the voyage is not. What it is where we start, which is a crisis of relation. So how we relate currently how we relate violently to our own earth, to each other, and to ourselves. This is what we're called to end and to voyage beyond. And I want to say something because it just struck me just recently that where we're standing right now used to be called the Tyburn, and it was where people were taken mostly from Newgate Jail near St Paul's, and they were taken up here and they were hanged to death, and they were hanged as a public spectacle. So I don't know whether it was because I was nervous to do this talk or whether I felt into the energy of that space where we are, but it relates directly to what I want to talk about, which is the trauma that we carry, all of us, that we carry from the experience of violence in our own lives, in our ancestral streams, and in our collective field. And what I want to say to that is that we feel that the pain, the physical, emotional pain of that trauma, and all pain is basically pain of separation, because violence is an act of separation. An act of violence says you are different, it says you are other, it says you are beneath or you are above, it says you are an object for me to control, to manipulate, to exploit, to demean, to violate, and even to destroy. I also want to say that all of that violence that causes that trauma is always structural. It expresses and perpetuates systems of power, of class, of race, of gender, and many other forms. And what I want to say in terms of the spiritual or kind of philosophical spiritual point I want to make is that the acts of violence are legitimated by what we can call a dualism or a duality, a separation, man, woman, man, nature, rich, poor, black, white, good, bad, right, wrong, good, evil, all of these dualisms. So what I want to say is, in terms of the voyage that XR is inviting us on, then we have to start this voyage of transformation with an understanding of a non-dualistic understanding of reality. In other words, that all life is one, that we are all one. And we have to start with that, because that's the only foundation of a practice of real non-violence and peace, and the foundation of what I think we need, which is not just an internationalism or a globalism, but a planetary consciousness. So we have to start with that affirmation on our journey that all life, that we are life and all life is one. So that's the kind of spiritual element I want to talk about. That's the spiritual part of the journey, at the starting of the journey. The second part I want to talk about is, what does that mean then for like our political action, for our practical action? I think it means that on our boat, on our voyage, that our actions have to be grounded in a spiritual practice of meditation, of deep listening, of us to ourselves and to others. And that's where the healing is, that's where the reconnection is, and the transformation is. So our compass to navigate on this journey is our hearts, the center of truth and love. And I think anywhere else is where fear dominates, and fear is a broken compass. But what about practical action? And I'm going to say that the other part of our journey is a journey from a society of scarcity to a society of abundance. And what I mean by abundance is a society in which all the needs of all are met by the efforts of all. And we can work out practically what that means by spiritual practice of learning, non-violent practice, how we can work and live with each other and work together to achieve this abundance, which is the real meaning of real wealth and richness in the world. So I'm nearly done, but I just want to say, so there's just two parts of the journey, and we have to go on a journey of discovery, and that means it's a journey of learning, and that means that education is the engine room. If I continue the metaphor, it's the engine room of our ship. And it's pretty clear to everyone that the current education system is not up to what we need it to do and what it needed to be. And that's why I'm working with other people in Bristol to try to imagine and create and establish an alternative university as a cooperative university, where students would come not as consumers of knowledge, but as producers of knowledge, and of knowledge that matters, socially useful knowledge that is directly addressing the problems and the challenges that we face in Bristol, and of course far, far beyond. So establish a university that would be a hub for transformation of the city, and again and beyond. So I want to ask you, I suppose, that XR has created this amazing boat, this amazing ship. So are you ready to take that voyage of transformation that is required? And I want to, sorry, I want to get my notes in the right place. I want to just finish by saying that we need to remember always that life is joyful. So it's an exciting voyage. It's a voyage that we should fill with joy. And I also want to say that we start the voyage by affirming that we are life, and we are life in all its imperfect perfections, and we are life striving to work through its contradictions, and we are life trying to work out what it needs to do in order to flourish. So that's the journey that we are on, and I'll finish by just inviting us to set sail on that voyage with courage in our hearts, with an understanding of the traumatic history that we need to heal, and the future of love and abundance that we are called to create. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joel. After 20 years of protesting, I feel like I've been standing on the dock for nearly 20 years. And XR is the boat that's going to carry us to the future. So this is splendid, lovely. Thank you, Joel. Next talker is Mathieu.